My name is Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah Robert McCoy. Sometimes Jeremiah Robert Kelly McCoy, but we'll forego that for a time. To most of my good friends, I'm just McCoy. To my mom and people who knew me when I was a kid, I'm Jeremy. Work, I'm Jeremiah. To strangers, I'm Jeremiah. Names are important. Names are definitions to a certain extent. They are descriptions. They are parameters that we place on something. We name an aspect. We name a person. We name an item around us. We name places and roads. And we name everything. It's how we define our world. So, people have names, and those names have power. Now, many a game will talk about true names. The name of your soul is what that means. The name that is secret, that describes you utterly, describes the essential portion of you that gives power over you. A lot of magic systems in various games set great stock in those names. But even the other names have power. Sometimes the names are unfortunate. Who wants to be known as Typhoid Mary? Sometimes the names are names we take for ourselves. Titles. Descriptions. When I was getting into bulletin boards back in the late 80s, I took the name Tech Noir. Yes, I know about the bar in Terminator, but at the time I hadn't thought about it. I was merely taking it because it said two things about me. I liked film noir and darkness. It's kind of a thing. Teenager. Remember this. And I liked technology. Hence, Tech Noir. I've had that handle for decades. I don't use it as much anymore. I use it on Twitter. You may find me on Twitter as Tech Noir, which is interesting because Tech Noir is often taken for other people who want to evoke a feeling for the name of what they're doing or the name of the place they're going. So I get a message from time to time of so-and-so went to Tech Noir, which means a bar that they went to and played music. Or a band. There was a band for a little while named Tech Noir. And there was a role-playing game named Tech Noir, which was actually pretty good. But Tech Noir is a portion of me, because it's a name I took for myself. Brother Saul is another name. It's a name that I took from a character I played in a LARP for a long, long time. And so it's become sort of synonymous with my gaming self to a certain extent. It has become my default name in video games. Brother Saul, or some variation on it. Those people who knew the character will know the other variations. I'm Mortimer. To certain people, I will always be Mortimer Underhill, the creepiest man alive. There are others who will remember me as the Jazz Man, who was always talking really deep. Or I could be other things, other names that I've had over the years. Everybody has a name. What you name your characters is important. There is a power in how you name your characters. I was reading about Batman, and they named when they were coming up with the name, they thought Bruce should be his first name. Why Bruce? Robert the Bruce, who was a king in Scotland. It said something about gentry and power. Diana, for Wonder Woman. Of course her name's Diana. Why wouldn't it be? Evocative of a Greek goddess, if ever there was one. Kal-El was evocative of some certain Jewish elements of the cultures that the guys who made Superman came from. Names are important. Would Spider-Man have been as interesting if it had just been Flyman? Not really. There was something about the name that captured you. Batman is interesting. But if you haven't executed it correctly, you have the coolest name in the world, if the character doesn't live up to it, it doesn't matter, right? So now no one can be Spider-Man except Spider-Man. Batman, I don't have to really describe the character to you. If I say Batman, you know who I'm talking about. The name has power. If I name a character Arthur, in Western culture, this would probably set some expectations about someone. If I name a woman Juliet or Joan, these two carry some weight. Names are important. How you name things is important. A lot of people will set great stock on coming up with new names, names that have no precedent. And there's something to be said for that. But the problem there is because they don't have a precedent, it means that they don't have weight. Now, they can develop their own weight. They can develop their own power. You have the new name, and it's associated, and suddenly that name has some presence. Before there was a Superman, Superman had no power. The name had no power. Ubermensch, maybe? But really, no one was going to be named Superman. It had no power until it did. Spider-Man is a dumb name up until the point you have Spider-Man in the world. And then you can show he has power, and then the name has power. So when you're coming up with cool names, you have to also deal with the fact that those names will not have power in and of themselves unless you associate them with existing cultural icons, touchstones. Or you produce something so cool that the name suddenly has power. Dwys der Orden, as much as I'm not necessarily a super fan of the series, Dwys der Orden has a certain amount of power because in gamer culture, they've read the character, they know who it is. Thanos, to those of us who read comics and know Marvel Comics, was impressive the moment they mentioned it. The moment he appeared on screen. His name has power to us. To people who were not already comic fans, they went, who? Make sure that your names do the job you want them to. If you want the name to describe something, you should probably stick to a name that is familiar. Now, this is harder when you start talking about other cultures. This is one of the difficulties in dealing with cultures that are not as familiar to the players. You could say, for instance, make a character name that has some relation to samurai, or Musashi, or Ronin, or ninja. Outside of that, a lot of Japanese names aren't familiar to people. Akira, maybe? But they will have more power to people from those cultures because they're familiar with the names and the stories that involve them. If you're going to invoke people to know a culture outside their own, you have to teach them the history of the name. Just a thought. Anyways, I was thinking about names today. You may have figured that out. And that is why I decided to ramble about names for a while. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you subscribe. And I will catch you guys later. Have a good night.